From the dawn of human memory, every civilization has spoken of creatures that defy nature. Beasts that should not exist, yet somehow do. In Greek myths, towering cyclopes and the Minotaur stalked the shadows. In Japanese folklore, strange yokai haunted forests and rivers. Across cultures and centuries, humanity has always told stories of monsters. But then comes a question few ever stop to ask. What about the Bible? Not legends, not campfire tales, but Scripture itself. The sacred text that shapes nations, judged kings, and claimed to speak with divine authority. Hidden within the pages of the Old Testament are beings just as strange, just as unsettling. Creatures described not with fantasy, but with certainty. Not as symbols of imagination, but as part of the created order. Were these beasts misunderstood animals, distorted by time and language? Were they mythic forces borrowed from ancient cultures? Or were they something far more disturbing, signs woven into Scripture to reveal the power and sovereignty of the Most High? Scholars have debated these questions for centuries, yet the mystery remains, waiting in the text for those willing to look closer. In this video, we will uncover 4 unusual creatures found in the Bible, beings that challenge our understanding of history, faith, and myth itself. As we journey through ancient languages and forgotten worlds, you may begin to see Scripture in a new light. And if this exploration stirs your curiosity, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join the community. Because the Bible does not merely record the past, it reveals patterns. And patterns, once seen, are never easily forgotten. The word itself feels out of place. Unicorn, a creature of legends, of tapestries and fairy tales. Yet shockingly, it appears within the Bible itself. In the book of Numbers, God is described with the strength of a unicorn, powerful and unstoppable. In the book of Job, the question is asked with divine authority. Will the unicorn be willing to serve you? These are not passing metaphors hidden in obscure poetry. They are bold declarations, spoken without explanation, as if the reader already knows what is being described. And that is precisely what unsettles modern audiences the most. But the mystery deepens when we return to the original language. In Hebrew, the word is not unicorn at all. It is re'em, a term stripped of fantasy, raw and ancient. When Greek translators encountered this word, they rendered it monokeros, meaning one-horned. The Latin word followed with unicornis. And so, across centuries and languages, a single word transformed. What began as a powerful beast of the ancient world slowly became a mythical creature of the imagination. Yet in the minds of ancient readers, there was nothing mythical about it. To them, this creature was as real as a lion, a horse, or an ox. In fact, unicorns do not even appear in Greek or Roman mythology. Instead, they are found in ancient natural encyclopedias, early attempts to catalogue real animals. Scholars now believe these accounts were born from travelers' stories distorted by distance and retelling. The unicorn was likely a misunderstood beast, its form reshaped by language and time. And so we are left with a haunting realization. The Bible may not be speaking of fantasy at all, but of reality seen through the fractured lens of history. A creature real enough to be known, yet strange enough to be forgotten. As the ancient world expanded, stories traveled faster than truth. Merchants crossed deserts, soldiers marched through foreign lands, and with them came tales of creatures unlike anything seen before. Among these stories was a fearsome beast with a single horn, spoken of in distant regions beyond the known world. Roman scholars did not dismiss these accounts as fantasy. They recorded them as fact. One such scholar, Pliny the Elder, described a unicorn with the body of a horse, the feet of an elephant, the tail of a bull, and a single horn rising from its head. Fierce, untamable, and powerful. It was a creature assembled from fragments of testimony, shaped by rumor and imagination. Yet, behind this strange description, scholars now see something familiar. Not a mythical horse, but a rhinoceros, misunderstood and reshaped through second-hand and third-hand accounts. Few in the ancient Mediterranean world had ever seen such an animal. Each retelling altered its form, like a message whispered from ear to ear. The horn grew more prominent, the body more fantastical, and slowly, the real animal vanished, replaced by legend. What began as observation became exaggeration. What was real became unbelievable. When we return once more to the biblical text, the confusion deepens further. The Hebrew re'em was never a rhinoceros to begin with. It referred instead to a powerful wild bull known to neighboring cultures as the rimu, what we now call the aurochs, the massive ancestor of modern cattle. And so, history reveals a triple distortion. A bull became a unicorn became a rhinoceros, and the truth was buried beneath centuries of translation. Not a fairy tale, but a warning. How easily meaning is lost when language shifts, and how even scripture can appear strange when its ancient voice is no longer heard. Then the book of Job takes us deeper, far beyond questions of language and translation, into the realm of awe and terror. God begins to speak, not softly, but with overwhelming authority. And in his words, two creatures emerge from the shadows of Scripture: Behemoth and Leviathan. They are not introduced as metaphors, they are described with precision, power, and terrifying majesty. These are not beings humanity rules over. They are beings humanity cannot control. Behemoth rises first, a colossal creature of the land. It feeds like an ox, yet its strength is unmatched. Its muscles ripple with power. Its bones are described as bars of iron, its limbs like forged bronze. It rests among reeds and marshes, unafraid, even when rivers rage against it. Mountains provide its food. No trap can capture it. No weapon can master it. God presents Behemoth as the pinnacle of his earthly works, a living reminder that creation contains forces far greater than human strength. Then comes Leviathan, the terror of the deep. A creature of the sea, armored in impenetrable scales, each locked tightly against the next. Smoke pours from its nostrils, fire leaps from its mouth. Its breath ignites coals. Spears shatter against its hide. Harpoons fail. To face Leviathan is to remember defeat and never attempt it again. As God describes this beast, silence falls. Not because Leviathan threatens God, but because it reveals a truth mankind cannot escape. There are powers in creation that only the Most High can command. For centuries, readers have wrestled with a single question. Were Behemoth and Leviathan truly monstrous beings, or were they ordinary animals described with extraordinary language? Many scholars chose the safer path. They searched for creatures that still walk the earth, animals familiar enough to explain the ancient text. Behemoth, they argued, fits the form of a hippopotamus, a massive land animal, feeding on grass, dwelling in rivers and marshes, unbothered by rushing waters. Powerful, territorial, and nearly unstoppable to ancient hunters. To them, the description seemed to align. Leviathan followed the same pattern of reasoning. An aquatic predator with armored skin and fearsome teeth, surely a crocodile. Its scales locked tightly together, its jaws impossible to pry open, its presence alone enough to inspire fear. For a time, this interpretation dominated biblical scholarship. The monsters of Job were no longer mysteries, they were simply animals, magnified by poetic language. The terrifying unknown had been reduced to the familiar. But the text refused to stay quiet. Questions lingered. Crocodiles do not breathe fire. Hippos are not described as the greatest of God's works. Leviathan does not dwell in shallow rivers, but in the depths of the seas. Its form is serpentine, its power otherworldly. Slowly, the cracks appeared. The natural explanation began to feel insufficient. And so the ancient words pressed back against modern certainty, whispering a warning. Perhaps these creatures were never meant to be explained away. Across the ancient world, a familiar pattern emerges. Civilizations separated by oceans and centuries told the same story in different tongues. A god rises, a serpent opposes, and creation is born through conflict. In Babylon, the storm god Marduk crushed the sea dragon Tiamat, splitting her body to form the heavens and the earth. In the lands of Canaan, the god Baal struck down Lotan, the twisting sea serpent. The Norse spoke of Jormungandr, the world serpent encircling the earth. The Greeks feared Typhon, a monstrous dragon defeated by Zeus. In India, Indra shattered the serpent Vritra. Even in distant Japan, the storm god Susanoo faced the eight-headed serpent Yamata no Orochi. Again and again, the same image appears, the chaos serpent, standing against order itself. It is here that Leviathan takes on a deeper meaning. Scholars have long noticed the striking similarities between Leviathan and these primordial monsters. Even the name carries an echo of ancient myth. Many believe Leviathan is linguistically connected to Lotan, the defeated sea beast of Canaanite lore. The imagery aligns almost perfectly. The twisting body, the untamable power, the dominion of the deep. To ancient audiences, this was not coincidence. Leviathan represented chaos, the uncontrollable forces that once threatened creation. And yet, the Book of Job does something radical. God does not battle Leviathan. He does not slay it. He does not fear it. Instead, he speaks of it with calm authority, almost admiration. Leviathan is not his enemy, but his creation, not a rival, but a testament to his power. In Scripture, chaos itself bows to the Most High. The serpent still exists, but it exists under command. While Leviathan dominates the seas of myth and chaos, Behemoth remains a mystery rooted in the earth itself. Unlike its serpentine counterpart, Behemoth does not appear across countless mythologies. It stands alone, mentioned only here in the Book of Job, emerging briefly and powerfully before retreating back into silence. Its name echoes the Hebrew word Behemoth, meaning cattle, leading some scholars to believe Behemoth was imagined as a colossal bull, a creature of overwhelming strength and grounded force. This connection draws the mind toward ancient epics beyond the Bible. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, a divine beast known as the Bull of Heaven is sent down to punish humanity, shaking the land with its power. The parallels are difficult to ignore. A heavenly beast, immense strength, a symbol of raw, untamed creation. Some believe Behemoth may have drawn from this same ancient imagery, reshaped within scripture to emphasize not human heroism, but divine sovereignty. Yet, the truth is this: Behemoth refuses to be fully explained. It does not fit neatly into zoology. It does not roam freely through myth. It appears, speaks through description, and vanishes. Perhaps that is the point. Behemoth stands as a reminder that not every mystery is meant to be solved. Some exist to humble. Some exist to reveal how small humanity truly is. And in the presence of such a creature, one truth becomes unavoidable. Even the greatest beasts of the earth exist only by the will of the Most High. Hidden in the earliest chapters of Genesis is a name spoken almost in passing, yet heavy with consequence: the Nephilim. The word itself means the fallen ones. They appear briefly, without explanation, leaving behind a trail of fear and speculation. According to the text, they were the offspring of a forbidden union between the sons of God and the daughters of men. Warriors, men of renown, figures so formidable that their memory lingered long after their disappearance from the page. Outside the Bible, the mystery deepens. In the ancient book of Enoch, the Nephilim are described in terrifying detail. Giants of impossible size, beings who devoured the earth's resources, turned on humanity, and plunged the world into chaos. Their violence, it is said, cried out for divine judgment. But Enoch stands outside the biblical canon, a separate tradition, one interpretation among many. And so, scholars remain divided. Were the Nephilim literal giants? Or were they legendary exaggerations, ancient warriors magnified by fear and memory? The Bible itself remains restrained. In the book of Numbers, the Israelites compare themselves to grasshoppers beside the Nephilim, a statement that may be literal or may be the language of terror and defeat. Yet one clue remains. In the earliest translations, the word Nephilim becomes gigantes, giants, not merely tall men, but beings that loom large in the human imagination. Once again, Scripture leaves us with a question rather than an answer. And perhaps that uncertainty is intentional. For some truths are not meant to satisfy curiosity, but to warn. As we reach the end of this journey, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The Bible is far stranger than it first appears. Beneath familiar verses lie layers of meaning shaped by ancient languages, forgotten cultures, and a world vastly different from our own. Unicorns become bulls. Bulls become legends. Sea monsters echo primordial chaos. Giants walk briefly through the pages of Genesis and vanish. And yet, through all of it, Scripture does not descend into fantasy. It speaks with purpose, with restraint, with authority. To read these texts in their original language is to hear echoes long buried by translation. Words shift, meanings fracture. What once felt mythical becomes historical. What seemed literal becomes symbolic. And sometimes the opposite occurs. The strange creatures of the Bible are not distractions from faith. They are invitations. Invitations to read more carefully, to listen more deeply, to recognize that the ancient world understood reality in ways we are only beginning to recover. And perhaps that is the final message. These creatures were never meant to dominate the story. God was. The monsters appear, and then they fade. Empires rise, and then they fall. But the voice of Scripture endures, calling each generation to humility and reverence. If this exploration challenged the way you see the Bible, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts below. The text still speaks. And for those willing to listen, it has not finished speaking yet.